recently had someone ask me where I was when I knew we'd be planting Element. And to be honest, I would say that it never really even sank in. I mean, not even today. I've always felt like it's too good to be true, that God would allow someone as messed up as me and a people as weird and as jacked up as you to ever be part of a church planting endeavor. And not until the first week we actually met with 35 people in January of 2008 in this old dilapidated car dealership did I really think we're actually doing this thing called Element. I mean, Element was half full of mold and trash, no heater, no air conditioning, and at this point, we've only fixed half of that issue. And part of that's because the sun shines up and heats up the roof too high. Now, this is how Element kind of happened. I was working at a church that I worked in for almost 7 years, and at one point I changed roles, and I gave the church 2 more years of service before I believed God was calling me to do something else. I mean, honestly, I thought I'd be going out and getting a normal job at the end of those 2 years, but God had other plans. One of my friends used to sit in my office and say, "You should plant a church. You'd make a good lead pastor." And I would laugh in his face because I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. And he kept saying, "You should do this." He gave me a ton of support, and I probably wouldn't be here without him. And so I started reading all these church planting books and looking into what it would take. At one point, I even talked to another church who was going to allow us to use their building on a Saturday evening. But the more I read church planting books, the more that I realized that most non-Christians will actually come to a Sunday morning service before anything else. So we started looking, and we found this old car dealership that had been empty for almost a decade.
A new Nissan Stanza, a Nissan Maxima. Make Airport Auto Center your choice.
A month later, we had a meeting in that same space to talk about our vision. And if you don't know what our vision is, we have a singular vision, and it is Jesus, His redemption of us. The gospel is paramount to all that we do. Our name even comes out of this Gmail thread where a bunch of people were throwing out names. Element kind of stuck because Element is defined as the surroundings necessary for life. I mean, that is Jesus' salvation of us and our community with one another. And so Element's launch, it was not a commentary or indictment of other churches or other worship styles or other visions. It's simply a response to God's calling and fueled by a passion to teach people to live missionally where they already live, work, and play. And so our goal as a body of believers is to lift up Jesus by teaching the scriptures, by turning everyday community into gospel community, and then going out and planting churches. I mean, honestly, I still don't think I can do this. It must be Jesus and His strength and His power because nothing would get done otherwise. In the last 6 years, Element has grown tenfold from its original 35 people. And think about this. After 4 years, only 68% of church plants survives. The typical church plant doesn't even pass 100 people in attendance by their 4th year. And we, as Element, have the opposite problem, that we don't know what we're going to do with all of you, where we're going to put all of you and your kids. This is why Element has started a journey we're focused on called Planting Roots. You know, it's a stewardship journey of growth that's going to allow Element to move into the place where we can actually call our home. Throughout this journey, you will hear multiple stories of how God has used Element to proclaim the gospel, how Jesus has changed lives, and how He is consistently and constantly growing us and discipling us. A couple decades ago in America, the church peaked in the fact that there was one church for every 430 people. Today, that ratio is one church for every 6,194 people, and it's declining. And statistically, Element is a success, but we don't want to be a statistic. You know, we want to be and do what Jesus is calling in us. Is Element perfect? It's kind of a funny question, but the answer is no. But if we live our mission statement perfectly, we will be a church who is Jesus-centered, a community that finds our identity and purpose in the gospel by making disciples who make disciples. Element longs to be a people who labor with the exalted Christ because He gives us the authority to proclaim the gospel. And in doing so, Element also longs to labor with the incarnated Christ who gives us humility and grace to creatively demonstrate and proclaim His love to other people in need of redemption. I mean, we believe right now in Element's journey. That means we begin a focused time of stewardship where we seek what God is calling us to do individually and as a body. We are excited that you are here to join us for Planting Roots.